Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Unparalleled Universe and welcome to my first ever movie discussion video. And in this video, it's not going to really be a review or anything like that. I'm not qualified to sit here and try to review movies, but I'm very excited about Endgame and I just wanted to jump on here and talk about it, talk about my favorite things in the movie, talk about the things that almost made me cry, some of the things that made me scream, all the crazy stuff and the crazy experience and emotions and everything that went into watching this movie. There's just so much going on, especially for people like you and me. I think that like these movies, I mean, I'm not going to try to act like they're not made for everybody, you know. They're generally made so that everybody can enjoy them. That's what Disney's good at doing. But, I mean, these movies are special to people like us, people like you and me. You know, if you sit here and you clicked on a video on some dude's channel that reviews action figures based on comic book characters and all this stuff, and you want to hear what I'm saying, then this movie was special to you and me in a different kind of way than it is to other people, if you could understand what I'm saying. Like, we've liked these kind of characters forever, you know. I had Thanos toys when I was a little kid. You know, I don't know if you guys remember the Fantastic Four line from the animated series, but yeah, anyways, like these characters are characters that we've loved forever, and you know, it's just crazy to see them in these big movies that the whole world shows up and they love them, you know, and you got like a whole theater of people crying and, and laughing and going crazy over these characters that people like you and me have loved all our lives, you know. So it's a trip. But anyways, let's get into this. So obviously this video is going to be filled with spoilers because I'm just going to be talking about what I liked in the movie. And if you haven't seen the movie, please leave. I don't want my video to be the reason why Endgame was ruined for you, because there's just so many crazy things in there that you're going to want to experience in the theater. And I mean, chances are, you know, I don't have to tell anyone that's watching this video this stuff. You know, you guys, I'm sure you guys have seen it. I'm going to put in the title very clearly that it's a spoiler discussion. So please, if you haven't seen the movie, please go watch it. But anyways, it's just such an incredible movie. There's so many cool things going on. I don't think I'm gonna sit here and try to go through like the scenes in order or anything like that. I'm just gonna kind of let it go, you know. First off, I do like the way that it started with Hawkeye and his family and stuff like that. It was really heartbreaking to see what happened to them and how, you know, he was very happy hanging out with them, and the next thing you know, they were gone. And I love the way they did it. Like, he turned to his daughter and she was gone, and he was kind of just confused. He was like looking around, and then he turned and saw that his son and his wife were gone, and that's when it like really kicked in for him and he started like tripping out. Yeah, that was really well done. I'd say that some parts in the beginning felt like a little fast, but you know, I get it. It's a long movie. They stuffed a lot of things in there. You know, you can't let everything sit there and soak in. But yeah, things in the beginning were kind of, I'm saying in the very beginning, before even the title card showed up, some of the stuff kind of moved quick, you know, and that's okay. One thing I really loved when Captain Marvel brought back Iron Man and Nebula back to Earth, and Iron Man reunited with Captain America. It was like a quick hug. They didn't have time to fight right away. They gave a hug. And then it showed Rocket holding Nebula's hand. That was really, really nice. But those were some more parts that I felt were like really, like they went really fast, you know. Like I would have loved to have seen Rocket and Nebula talk a little bit more, even though, you know, she's not a talker. But I would have loved to see them discuss what happened, you know, and like kind of console each other a little bit more. But yeah, when they go back inside and Iron Man and Captain America are fighting, that was a super dope scene, man. Robert Downey Jr. tore that up, and I like the way that he looked skinny and like unhealthy, like he'd been stuck in space without food. And I really liked the Nebula and Iron Man stuff in space too. That was all good stuff. More stuff that I felt was a little bit rushed, but I would have loved to have hung out with Nebula and Tony on that ship there to see like their relationship grow a little bit more. And I do wish that their relationship kind of came back later in the movie. It didn't really. I don't think they really touched bases again, but it seems like they were close, you know, and she was like really helping them. They helped each other. They developed a really good relationship. I wish they would have explored that a little bit more, but it was really dope, the stuff that we saw. And I loved Robert Downey Jr. screaming at Captain America, making Captain America feel like it was his fault. But Captain America's a beast. He's not gonna, like, you know, he'll take all that like abuse from Tony and still try to help him on his, you know, when he was falling. Captain America's the best. But anyways, the next thing you know, we're hanging out with the Avengers. They're talking to Carol about you know, Captain Marvel, about what's going on, and they're just kind of trying to figure out what they're gonna do. And their big plan is to go go back and whoop his ass. You know, it's like, okay, cool, great plan. None of them has been to space. They're just gonna attack Thanos, and they're gonna beat his ass and take the stones back and fix it all. It's all gonna be perfect. All because they have Captain Marvel, so that's gonna work out, right? So they get there, and you know, there's no like sign of any kind of army or anything like that. They go, they find Thanos, and like this whole thing was a trip to me. Like the way they ambushed him, I thought it was so cool, and I thought it was awesome seeing Thanos like do his thing out in his garden. He was like picking fruit, and then he was like boiling something. I was like, he's got an infinity gauntlet. Why is he sitting there cooking and boiling water? He could do anything that he wants. But you know, we find out why he's not going crazy with the infinity gauntlet very shortly after that point. But yeah, I love the way that the Avengers kind of ambushed him. You know, that was super dope, and it just had me like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And like the way they chopped off his arm, that was crazy. And then I love like his whole like thing about that he had to do it, and he knew that like eventually that they'd come for him or whatever, so he had to destroy the stones, and Thor just kind of loses it, chops off his head. And then you know, then they're sitting there kind of just, you know, shocked. They don't know what to do. They don't know what the next step is. They don't know what the hell's going on. So all that stuff was just like, right away, the movie's super captivating. You know, you're really into it right away. Especially like if you walked into it thinking about Infinity War. Like for me, when I watched Infinity War the first time in that same movie theater where I watched Endgame, it was a trip. It was like, you know, when that's, and this isn't unique to me. This is to everybody. Like when that snap happened, like the whole theater was weird. Like it was different, silent, and weird. You know, it was just a crazy feeling. It was very unsettling. It was a strange experience, and it was really cool. Like if you just, I was kind of like stuck in that moment, you know. Even when I was watching Endgame, I felt like I walked right from Infinity War to Endgame, you know. Like I still felt the same as I did at the end of Infinity War. So watching these events play out at the beginning of Endgame it was really strange, you know. It was still like, it felt like very similar to the end of Infinity War, which makes sense because, you know, they filmed these movies together, and it was Infinity War then Endgame. So, you know, it makes sense that the feelings would carry over. Yeah, so after that, the biggest surprise of the movie, this is one of the biggest surprises for me in Endgame, is the fact that the bulk of the movie takes place 5 years after the events of Infinity War. I don't think anyone saw that coming. That was really crazy. Like, they came back to Earth, next thing you know, boom, 5 years later. I was blown away by that. I wasn't expecting that. Everybody in the theater gasped, you know. It was just insane. So then, you know, as we go, the Avengers are still trying to deal with everything. Captain America's going to like counseling, or actually he's like leading these counseling sessions. And the scene with the counseling session was one of my favorite scenes in the movie. I forget which Russo brother it was. Maybe it was Joe Russo, that he had his little cameo, and he was talking about like a date he went on with another gentleman, and you know, he was like barely starting to feel like it was regular and stuff like that. I thought that was really cool, and it added some like gravity to the whole situation, and like some personality to what everything's going on. It just wasn't like this big you know, movie event. It was like a person that was affected by it, so that was really cool. But the thing that made this scene like one of my favorite scenes in the movie is the fact that they had a cameo of Jim Starlin, which was insane, because like, I don't know, man. I mean, if you don't know who that is, you got to do some research, but that was the guy who created a lot of classic cosmic Marvel characters. And what was dope about that is, like, I saw that in the theater and I reacted like it was like Captain America had jumped on the screen or something. But yeah, that was super dope, and I was just so happy that like these creators over there at Disney and Marvel like shine a light on the people that really matter. You know, like Jim Starlin didn't really make Thanos what he is today. You know, the movies changed Thanos a lot, but there would be no Thanos without him. You know, there'd be no Adam Warlock, there would be no Drax, Gamora, Pip the Troll, all these awesome characters. Like, some of those characters are very popular, and he's the reason why. You know, moving on. So Ant-Man jumps out of the quantum realm, and it turns out, you know, he realized that he's time traveled. And I like the way that he came out. Like, that little rat or whatever ran onto the little control panels, and it made it so it spit him out or whatever it was. And I like how he was like disillusioned almost. The world looked like it ended pretty much, and he was just walking around confused, didn't know what happened. To him, only 5 minutes passed by. So, you know, that was pretty insane for him to come out and see that. And it was really like, you really felt like his stress and the tension when he's looking at those monuments, and he's looking for the name of Hope and his other loved ones. And well, actually, I guess he'd be looking for his daughter. I don't know, but he was like going all crazy looking at names on the thing, and he saw his own name and he started to trip out. But you know, that was really awesome stuff. And you know, I know a lot of people don't give a lot of credit to comic book movies, or they always want to knock them down because they're comic book movies, but you could feel like these actors go in there and they give it their all, man. Paul Rudd was tearing it up. Every actor in this movie was tearing it up. Him in particular really made me like sad and stuff like that, and stressed out, and like feel for his situation. So anyways, he gets back with Captain America and them, and he explains to him that, you know, he time traveled, so he's like, you know, maybe we could fix it all through time travel. Captain America's like, yeah, I'm down for whatever, let's go talk to Tony. Go back to Tony Stark, and they explain to him like, you know, maybe we could fix it all through time travel. And Tony Stark is basically like, nah, I don't want any part of it. I have a daughter, I have a wife, I'm happy. You know, I understand that half the world's gone, but I have my world now, we've moved on. And I totally get that. Like, I almost wanted Tony like not to get involved, because I feel him on that, you know, like he has his own life, you know, like, I mean, you know, people are selfish like for their own life, and sometimes like I get it, you know, it's his wife and his daughter, and he was almost gonna be like, you know, he was almost gonna leave it alone because he didn't want to risk them, and I totally sympathize with that, and I was almost like just kind of rooting for him, like just tell them no and go back inside and leave it alone. They'll figure it out. They have great minds, so they'll figure it out. They don't need Tony, but you know, it turns out they did, and it turned out like he couldn't resist, so he figured out the way to time travel. And he figured it out really quick because he's Tony Stark and he's the man. So once he figured it out, he kind of made a plan for himself, and he told Steve Rogers right away that his priority lies in his family. So he wants to save everybody, but he wants to come back to his family, and he wants to come back alive if possible. But yeah, we know how that turns out. But anyways, so as they go on, they kind of experiment with time travel, and that's where a lot of like the comedic moments come in and all that stuff. And that's great because you know, you need those moments of levity to kind of offset like the desperation and the really depressive tone that's going on. So it's very cool to find a very organic, natural way to sneak in like those comedy beats. So that was good stuff when they're experimenting with the time travel, and you know, and then in the middle of all that, we've come across Bruce Banner, and Bruce Banner's merged with the Hulk, and that's in the comic books that's known as Smart Hulk, and that's really, really cool. I'm so happy that they finally incorporated that. Hopefully we get to see that again. I don't know if that's a possibility, but hopefully he pops up somewhere, you know. I mean, Smart Hulk was such a cool thing. I would love to see Gray Hulk somehow. It would be awesome if he starts turning gray and, you know, joins the mob. How cool would that be to get a freaking Mr. Fix-It? So I think that was really cool, and that was another place to get a lot of organic comedic beats was from Bruce Banner, Smart Hulk, because Bruce Banner's already pretty funny, and the Hulk is pretty funny, and when they were together, they were awesome. I'll say the first hour of this movie, a lot of people say it's slow. I don't think it was slow. If anything, like I said, I think the beginning was a little fast, and then once we get into like the solving the problem thing, I don't know if slow is the right word, but it's kind of doing its thing. It's taking its time, and but I had a lot of fun. There was no point in the movie where I thought like, oh, I'm bored, or let's get to the next thing, or when's something gonna blow up, or whatever. There was no points in the movie like that. I was just kind of enjoying the ride, and I love to see all the characters travel back in time to the different movies. I like how they kind of were like trying to figure out where the best place to find the stones were. It was very cool to see them jump to all these different points in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that we've seen so far. A lot of these points in time that we all remember from when we saw the movies, you know, and like we remember things playing out a certain way, and they're kind of different here, or you know, like they try to recreate scenes, but they were different times and things like that, so they'd work out differently. The big one is the elevator scene with Captain America when he's in there with Crossbones and a couple other characters and henchmen and things like that, a bunch of corrupt SHIELD agents, and you know, everybody in the theater thought that he was gonna say, you know, before we get started, does anybody want to leave, or whatever it is. Everybody thought he was gonna say that. I heard people go, oh, he's gonna say that. I was with my nephew. I turned to my nephew like, oh, he's gonna, and then before I even got a chance to finish, he leans over and says, Hail Hydra. Captain America, that is, and then he escapes without having to embarrass them like he did in Civil War. And I don't even think that was a recreation of I mean, that wasn't him traveling back to that scene in Civil War. It was just kind of something that kind of happened the same way because those guys they all worked for S.H.I.E.L.D., so they were all there when the battle for New York happened, whatever. But I just like the way that they incorporated that. And I also loved when Captain America and Tony Stark were in that base after they lost the cube there and they had to go to another spot. I loved to see Tony Stark talking with his dad because it was so like, it was nerve-wracking almost, you know, because he was like talking to him. Howard Stark knew something was familiar about him, so he like talked to him too, hung out with them more than you would, you know, just some random guy that you kind of run into. You're not going to walk around and talk to him like that, or I'm not anyways, I don't know. But you know, they sat there and they talked like for a long time excessively about their kids and just what they do and all this kind of cool things. They became friends, and it was really cool to see Tony Stark be able to tell his dad how he feels, you know, and tell him that he's a grandfather without really telling him, you know. It was really, really good stuff. That father-son stuff was really great, and I really loved it when we saw Captain America kind of see Peggy Carter, and he's like looking at her through those blinds, and he's just kind of stuck there. That was really, really cool. I thought she was gonna see him for some reason, I don't know, but that was really great stuff. I do like how they kind of failed at first, and they had to, at first when they were at the Battle of New York, and they found, you know, they had this really cool plan to get the stones back. Ant-Man was doing a bunch of cool stuff, you know, but it didn't work out. And I like, there was some more points of comedy in there, like with Hulk, you know, they wouldn't let him take the elevator and stuff like that. So I like the fact that they had to fail there in order to go back and lead into all these other cool things. And another cool thing is when Hawkeye and Black Widow were trying to get the Soul Stone, they had the conversation with Red Skull. And I'll be honest with you, when I was watching that, you know, I felt like, you know, okay, one of these guys is gonna die and stuff, obviously, because you can't get away from there without sacrificing something you love. And I don't know, it kind of felt like, I mean, you know, it was they were kind of redoing the thing from Infinity War, and I was kind of like, all right, we're redoing a lot of stuff. And you know, I love that scene in Infinity War. That's in Infinity War, when that scene happened, it like the movie it was off, you know. It was crazy. That was something that I did not expect. And in this movie, I was kind of like, oh, okay, now one of these guys are gonna die, kind of like Gamora did, and you know, whatever. But I do like the way that it turned out, because I love like how hard they were fighting for each other to die, you know, to kill themselves in order to save the other one. Like, Natasha knew how important it was for Clint to get back to his family, and you know, she went for it. And you know, they fought or whatever, and there was a point in time where Hawkeye had the upper hand, and he ran off the hill and he was gone, and I was like, oh man, Hawkeye, you know, Hawkeye's a G. He saved his friend. And then she like shot a you know, some kind of like line to catch him or whatever, and kind of jumped with them. And I thought like they both, almost for a second I thought they were both gonna die. I was like, no, like I thought she like messed up. But you know, she knows what she's doing, so she grabbed onto the mountain with her little line there, had them both hanging, and she was just like, you know, let me go, you know. And you know, she died, and that I don't, you know, she's not coming back. I know that there's gonna be a Black Widow movie. I imagine it's gonna take place when she's a little bit younger, so they could do that like spy espionage stuff. So I'm sure it'll be like more in the past, where it was a little more like smaller scale, you know. So that's cool. But yeah, that's crazy. And I think like the fact that they have that movie announced really like made it so no one really thought about Black Widow when we thought about characters that might not make it through Endgame. Everybody thought Captain America, everybody thought Iron Man, some people thought Thor, but no, I don't remember people talking about Black Widow dying. I didn't think she would die. I thought she'd make it, but anyways, she didn't. So after that, Clint goes back with the Soul Stone. He wakes up just like Thanos did in that lake with the Soul Stone in his hand, and that was all really, really cool. It was very like like strange watching that. But and then you had Thor and Rocket back in Asgard, and they were in I guess it would be the time of the Dark World movie. And I'll be honest with you, I've only seen that movie once. I wasn't very into it, so this scene didn't really have any kind of connection to me in that regard. Like I wasn't thinking about like, oh, I remember when this happened or anything like that. I was just enjoying the scene for what it was, and it was really great. I really liked Thor talking to his mom, and you know, he at that point, you know, I skipped that too. We come across Thor, and he's kind of so. Let me backtrack. Earlier, when they were coming up with their plan, they needed to get Thor. So they got Thor. It turns out that he kind of stopped caring. He's hanging out playing Fortnite with Korg and Meek. He's gained a bunch of weight. All he does is drink. He doesn't care about nothing. He only visits the Asgardians one day a month. So he's very embarrassed and disappointed that he couldn't stop Thanos, and now he just doesn't care. Smart Hulk and Rocket go. They tell him they need his help. They finally convince him by telling him there's beer on the ship, and he goes and helps. So when the Avengers kind of go back in time and they're split up, it's Rocket and Thor who go off to Asgard to try to get, I forget which stone is over there, sorry about that, but they go try to get the stone, and that's the stone that's made out of weird jelly or weird craziness, and it's, I guess it infected Jane Foster. They got to go get it from Jane Foster. And while they're over there, they run into Frigga, Thor's mom, and I just love the conversation they had. Being that like he was in such a low, dark place, and it took a conversation with his mom to take him out of it. That's so cool because usually he's such a buff, like badass, like, you know, he hit Thanos in the chest with the axe, and he killed most of those aliens on that battlefield, and he's just a badass. He's awesome. But you know, at his lowest point, he needed his mom to talk to to make himself feel better, and he also needed Rocket to smack him in the face, so that was cool too. But yeah, I thought that was awesome, like seeing him talk to his mom. And I don't know if it was like reused footage, but I was really surprised to see Natalie Portman in the movie. Like I said, I'm not very familiar with Thor 2, so I don't know if that was just footage lifted from there and thrown into this movie, or if she actually was there and was in the movie, because there was a crazy amount of cameos, like from big stars, you know, like you had Robert Redford was in there, Tilda Swinton was, oh, I always say her name wrong, but I love the freaking Ancient One, Tilda Swinton. I'm sorry, I'm probably saying it wrong, but she is so awesome as the Ancient One. And let's talk about that real quick. You know, when it comes to these movies, I think a lot of times the overall story isn't necessarily very surprising. Like with Infinity War, we knew that Thanos was going to get these stones and he was going to snap, but we didn't know some of the smaller things. There was no way of knowing how Spider-Man was going to turn to dust and make us all cry by the way he's, you know, said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Stark," or "I don't feel so good," and all that stuff. Or we had no way of knowing like how Thanos throwing Gamora off of a cliff would affect us or me. You know, but I knew in the end he was going to snap. In this movie, I knew that, like, you know, they're going to save the day, whatever it takes. There was a bunch of theories about time travel and them getting the stones or whatever, but in the end, they're going to save the day. But the thing that's surprising to me is just these little crazy things that they do. And one of them that I love so much that, like, just caught me, like, off guard is when they had Hulk talking to the Ancient One, and then when he tries to go for the time stone and he hits Bruce Banner out of his body. Those are the kind of things where, like, those are the kind of cool things that people are never going to predict. You could predict these theories. Like, I'm sure you could go watch like YouTube YouTube Endgame prediction videos, and there's a bunch of people that say they're going to time travel, they're going to save the day, right? That's basically what happens, basically. But the thing that adds like the depth and the interesting levels to this movie is the little crazy character things that they do. And just the little, from a comic book nerd perspective, the little crazy, she knocked Bruce Banner out of the Hulk. That's insane. And I don't know, just to me, I was like, oh my God, you know. And there's a little bit more things like that where, you know, I'll talk about them in just a minute here, but there was a couple of other things that were just these little weird comic book things that make these type of movies special to me, you know? Like, just these little things that people would never predict. Nobody would ever predict that. I don't think anyone predicted something like that. And it's not a big plot thing. It's just something crazy that happened. Anyways, so... Oh, and I just love that whole conversation with Bruce Banner and the Ancient One. It was so awesome. Dude, she is badass. I think she's my favorite female character in the MCU. You know, followed closely, I'd say, by Scarlet Witch and what's her name? Okoye. Okoye is awesome too. But yeah, man, Tilda Swinton, she's incredible. But the Ancient One, when she was explaining the whole time thing, and Bruce Banner kind of had to school her about it and like convinced her. And I also loved when the fact that she knew that Dr. Strange was coming. She's like, I won't meet Dr. Strange for 5 years or whatever. And it's like, what the hell? Like, she's awesome. And yeah, I hope to see her in the future. And I know Dr. Strange has a sequel coming. Hopefully they find a way to incorporate her because she's so badass. But yeah, I love the conversation between her and Bruce Banner. I can't wait to see that again. Anyways, I don't remember where we were at going through this thing here, so let me think for a second. Oh, of course, then the last pair that we saw off trying to get the Infinity Stones was Nebula and War Machine, and they were on Morag, I think it was. Wherever it was that Peter Quill was dancing at the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy, and that was really fun too. And it was cool to see him dance again, and then War Machine just hit him or whatever. That was really cool. And I like the fact that, like, the present day Gamora, or I'm sorry, the present day Nebula, her mind like connected with that times I'd say, I guess it's 2014 Nebula, how her mind connected with the 2019 Nebula, like through the technology inside of her brain, and kind of ruined the whole plan, you know. So Thanos and his Black Order and his children and stuff like that kidnapped the modern day Nebula, switch her out with his Nebula after he kind of figures out the plan by reading their memories. So he switches them around, and then she sends that Nebula back to the Avengers 2019 time. So the Avengers collect all the stones after all this shenanigans, some funny stuff, some stressful stuff, some craziness. They all show up back in the you know, the Avengers headquarters where they're working on this time travel stuff. Natasha's gone. They all start crying. They try to figure out like, how could we get her back? Clint assures them that there's no way to get her back, and that's the end of story. And I wish they would have like you know, soaked on her death a little bit, because she deserves it. She's an OG too. She's one of the original Avengers, and a lot of people give credit to Thor and Captain America for being around the longest, but I think Scarlet, I think that Black Widow was around before both of them, because I think Iron Man 2 was before both of them. I have to check, but yeah, you know, she's a triple OG. She's been around forever, almost as long as Iron Man. So that's really crazy. That was a pretty emotional send-off for her. So they all pop up. They don't know that the Nebula that's there is the bad Nebula, or, you know, that didn't even cross their mind really. So Bruce Banner puts on this Infinity Gauntlet type of thing that Iron Man made out of Stark Tech and stuff like that. And you know, it's burning up his body. He's going crazy, and it turns out he's trying to do things that he probably shouldn't have. He's like trying to bring Natasha back and stuff like that, but the main thing is he's trying to bring everyone else back from before the snap, and it works, you know. So Clint's wife calls, and that's the big telltale thing to let us know that the snap worked. Ant-Man's looking outside. It looks all nice. Again, it feels like just like the end of Infinity War, but like the opposite side of that coin. Infinity War felt like very like desperate at the very end, and it was very silent. This was silent too, but it felt like hopeful, you know. There was birds flying around outside. There was more light. There was more trees. So, you know, there was like, it was cool. And the next thing you know, like Thanos comes out of like a comes out of the sky in this big old ship and just bombs the Avengers Tower. And you know, obviously they were brought back by the other Nebula, the evil Nebula, and he just bombs the Avengers headquarters. Boom, all kinds of bombs. And I thought Ant-Man was dead, because he was like looking out the window when it happened. It seemed like I thought he was dead. Man, that scene stressed me the hell out. And when this started happening, that's when the movie went insane. And I'm sure everybody who's watching this went crazy just like I did. After that, the movie just like hit like, just stepped on the gas, and it didn't stop until like a little bit before the end, but it went freaking crazy. So all kinds of like bombs came down, boom, like blowing everything up. I was sure Ant-Man was dead. And then, oh dude, at the very end, like, I mean, the building like collapsed. So War Machine was at the bottom, he couldn't do anything, and Rocket was at the bottom, and I thought Rocket was dead. I thought he was a goner. He was smashed under some rubble, and he was like almost crying. He was like, I can't breathe, like he, you know, he usually doesn't sound like you know, like vulnerable like that, but he's like, I can't breathe. It reminded me of like when Spider-Man was being crushed by the rubble in Homecoming, you know, felt just like that. And War Machine's trying to do something, but he can't. He gets out of his armor, but you know, he's kind of crippled without it, so he can't really do much. And I think Hulk's down there too, and he's trying to hold up the building, which reminded me of the cover of Secret Wars, or I can't remember if it was the cover, but that iconic image from Secret Wars where Hulk is holding up like that part of a planet. You know, it really reminded me of that. But it's coming down, and next thing you know, Ant-Man's like running down there, trying to like, he's running through the rubble. Such a cool like visual. He's jumping on top of pencils and little things, goes down that little water stream, and then you kind of don't hear about it, right? Then it kind of like, they're doing their thing down there. It cuts to Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man approaching Thanos, and Thanos is there. He's chilling. He don't care. He put his little like blade thing into the ground and just sat there and waited for them. And they come up, and you know, he basically tells them that, you know, he saw that he was able to complete the snap, but he was still unsuccessful. And so now his plan, basically it sounds like he was just going to kill everything and start over, which it kind of sounds like it wasn't very well thought out, because he was sitting in the middle of a battle, everything was fast paced, but it sounds like he was out for more blood than the Thanos from Infinity War was. The Thanos from Infinity War seemed like more like smarter and wiser and more like a, I want to say like he carried himself like a prophet almost, I guess you could say. I don't know, it might be weird to say, but he carried himself like differently than this one. This one was like a war lord, you know, he wanted to go to war, he wanted to fight. It looked like he would have taken more pleasure in killing those guys, even though he said he wouldn't. But, well, actually, he was like, you know, usually I don't take pleasure in killing, but this time I'm going to enjoy destroying your annoying, pitiful, obnoxious planet. Or he said something to that effect. And then there was a badass fight between the three of them. And, you know, Thanos had the upper hand. He took Iron Man out quick, actually. Like, I don't know where the hell Iron Man went. He punched him and he was out. And then, you know, Thor was going at it. He had Stormbreaker and Mjolnir in his hand, and he was like, you know, doing his thing. Captain America was in there doing his thing. It kind of reminded me of the fight at the end of Civil War. So lots of good stuff going on. And the next thing you know, I think he knocks Cap out, or not knocks him out, but he gives him a good hit. Then he's kind of out of the picture. And then there's a nice like back and forth, a good fight between Thor and Thanos. And next thing you know, Thanos has the upper hand. And I'm sure that everybody, all you guys, I'm sure that every single one of you guys went crazy for this moment, because he's getting his ass beat, and next thing you know, you see you know, him struggling, he's kind of reaching, you see like the hammer move, and you think that it's going to come to him, and it kind of goes right past him, and Captain America catches it. And oh my god, that was like that. So that was my favorite part in the movie. I love that part. I literally screamed like as loud as I could. Like I screamed, I jumped, like I said, I was with my nephew, I jumped and I like hit him, and I thought he told me I screamed like a girl, but I thought I screamed like a big, huge, manly man. But anyways, I was so excited that it was so crazy. That's one thing I always wanted to see in the MCU, was Captain America pick up Thor's hammer. And even when he did it slightly in Age of Ultron, I was so happy about that. That was so cool. But in this case, he picked up Thor's hammer and he went to work. Like, he got Thanos like a couple good ones, and they fought for a good minute. And like, I would have, man, I can't wait to go see this movie again so that I could watch that. I can't wait to own the Blu-ray so that I could watch that clip over and over, because that was just, I mean, I was like, I was in heaven at that point, you know. That was such a cool scene. And I'm sure, again, I'm sure all of you guys felt the same way as I did. And that's why it's very exciting to make like videos like this, because I know, I'm not gonna walk into work and find coworkers that are as excited about Captain America holding Thor's hammer as I am, you know, talking about that stuff. So I just wanted, like I said, I want to talk to you guys about it. But yeah, Captain America holding Thor's hammer was like, oh man, I was so, dude, it's so hard to explain how happy I was. That was so amazing. And you know, like I said, he got some good hits in there, and it was badass. And he was even controlling the lightning. So I don't know, like when I was watching it, I was like, oh, Captain America's a god. Like that's it. Like, well, you know. And then anyways, insanity. But in the end, Thanos, you know, he gets the upper hand on him. I think he stabbed him in the leg or something, tossed him, and Captain America was by himself. Iron Man was out. It looked very bad for Captain America. Again, this is another scene that reminded me of the Infinity Gauntlet comic when Captain America was taking a stand against Thanos. I know we kind of got that more so in Infinity War, but this one felt like that again, so that was very cool. That's one of my favorite panels in comic history. So yeah, it shows Captain America, and Thanos is like, that's when he made the comment about like he's gonna take pleasure in destroying the planet. Next thing you know, he has like a crazy amount of like ships and all kinds of crazy stuff going on, like his big old armies, those I forget what those little monsters are called with all the arms, but they were there. The Black Order was there. You had those big old like pillars coming down and like aliens coming out of them. But Captain America still stood there. He was still gonna go for it, man. Captain America, he's a G, but he was gonna go for it to the end. But then next thing you know, a portal opens up. You see the like Dr. Strange like sling ring thing going on, and I thought Dr. Strange was gonna jump out, but Black Panther jumped out. Black Panther, Suri, I think her name is, I always forget how to pronounce it, but his sister and Okoye, they walk out like like freaking the like they're about to tear it up. They come out, next thing you know, there's more portals, and at this point it's insanity. I think every single character from a Marvel movie was there. Valkyrie was there. Her on her horse was amazing. That made for so many cool visuals when she was like flying around on her horse. She was helping Spider-Man, other characters, all kinds of crazy stuff. And yeah, when Spider-Man showed up, people were clapping. Everybody was clapping. The whole theater was like, it was like a concert or something. They were going insane, and on screen it was just insane. Everything was just amazing about that whole part. It's hard to sit here and try to remember everyone who was there, but you know, the Guardians popped up. Falcon popped up. That was the voice that Captain America heard, actually. Right before you see the sling ring thing, you hear like on your left or whatever that they used to say when they were running laps with each other. And then next thing you know, they all pop out. And Falcon was crazy in here. A lot of times Falcon has become like kind of a joke because his like banter with Bucky, or even like Anthony Mackie, like the way he carries himself in interviews. He's a very funny guy, so sometimes it's kind of hard to disconnect from that and the the character. The character's funny too. The actor's funny. The character's funny. It's kind of hard to disconnect them. But in this movie, he was going at it. Like he was shooting. There was a part where he stabbed someone with the wings. I forget who it was. Maybe it was Thanos. But he like stabbed someone with his wings. I was like, oh man, he's going for it. But yeah, he was cool. In the middle of all that, at some point, Giant Man like grew from that basement where he was trying to save Rocket and War Machine. Just grew out of the ground, boom, and then he like punched one of those aliens. Oh shit, man, it was crazy. He punched one of those aliens. It fell down. One of those big like caterpillar things that like were floating through the sky in the battle in New York. He punched one of those things. Crazy stuff, like so many things going on in that scene. It was, and when you see that scene coming on, like you see the opposing sides kind of clashing going at each other, I felt like things were gonna get lost. I was like, oh, there's so much going on here. This is gonna look like a big like mess almost, But it didn't. It really reminded me of the airport scene in Civil War, but with more. The way they like transition to different fights and different characters and stuff like that. It's genius. Like, dude, those guys are such incredible directors. And speaking of them, I heard this is gonna be their last MCU movie, and that's like so like depressing to hear. But anyways, they did such a good job. I just love that scene so much. It really reminded me of the airport scene. In the middle of all that fighting, the Infinity Gauntlet kind of gets tossed around. They're playing like keep away with it. Black Panther has it at one point. Spider-Man has it on one point. He jumps on the back of Valkyrie's horse. They're flying around all crazy. I would love a poster of that whole thing, yeah, and maybe was there more than one Valkyrie running around? I don't know, maybe, but just a flying horse with wings just makes for really cool visuals. And those I really love the visual in Ragnarok where it shows Hela defeating all the Valkyries, and it reminded me of one of those old like Viking paintings, so very cool stuff. I kind of got that same feeling here. But in the middle of all that, they're fighting. Next thing you know, Thanos goes let it rain fire. When that stuff started falling, it started to overwhelm the heroes there. And next thing you know, you see something big, crazy out of the sky. And I totally forgot about this character for some reason. But she comes down. Thanos' ship starts shooting towards her. It doesn't do anything. She goes right through the ship. Bam. It's Captain Marvel. She brings it down. She starts to fight Thanos. And they're going at it. She's kind of holding her own. I mean, for the most part, she's bringing it to him. And she's kind of overpowering him. And I'm okay with how powerful. I mean, I'm okay with her being super powerful. That's obviously fine. But when Thanos like tried to headbutt her and it didn't do anything, it's like, ooh, come on, you got to do something here. But he found a way. He got the Power Stone. He punched her, and then she was gone. I mean, she showed up later. Obviously, it's not like she died, but. Again, I'm kind of in the camp where I feel like she's a little bit too overpowered, almost like Superman. It's kind of, I mean, it takes a really creative writer to make a character like that interesting, because it's hard to give them challenges when they're invincible. But anyway, and then in the middle of all that, Iron Man looks over at Dr. Strange and says, is this the way that we win? He's like, if I tell you, it won't happen. And Iron Man like just kind of trusts him, and he says, like, Dr. Strange like goes like this or something to him, and something clicks for Iron Man, and he attacks Thanos again, because Thanos ended up with the gauntlet. So Iron Man jumps all over the gauntlet doing his thing, and he gets thrown away. And then next thing you know, Thanos has his hand up and he goes to snap, and it just goes like cling, just metal. And then he like turns his hand, or maybe it was his right hand, I don't know. He turns his hand, and there was nothing there. And then it goes over to Tony, and he's sitting there, and he has them all in his skinny little hand. you know, compared to like a big old gauntlet that it's usually on, and they're like kind of traveling on his hand and stuff. And this is like the craziest thing. He like looks right at the camera and goes, "I am Iron Man." Boom, snaps. All the like bad armies, or like the Black Order army, whatever you want to call it, just kind of start fading away. Just like they get dusted, you know, they're gone, slowly disappearing. And then it kind of gets to Thanos, and he's just sitting there like defeated, and then he just fades away. And I just love that. It was like poetic almost, you know, like it's like now you know how it feels or whatever. But yeah, it was so cool to just see him like sit there defeated, just fade away, boom, dusted. But yeah, good stuff. And then Tony was all like jacked up. You know, Hulk mentioned early in the movie that like if anyone else tried to snap, then they wouldn't survive, that he was the only one that could survive, and he barely did. So Tony, you know, this is where a lot of people started crying. Pepper Potts tells him that, you know, it's okay, he could rest now, that they're good, they could take care of themselves, kind of thing. And yeah, it was just really emotional, and it was just crazy to see him go. And then they had a funeral for him, which was awesome. You saw all the like the greats there at the funeral, you know, all the Avengers, the Guardians, you saw Nick Fury, you saw Captain Marvel, the Wakanda folks, and yeah, it was really, really cool just seeing all of them show up for Tony Stark. And yeah, it was just really dope, man. And then next thing you know, Captain America has to take the Infinity Stones back to where they came from in their original time, so it doesn't mess up those timelines, and that's what they were instructed to do by the Ancient Ones. So Cap's taking care of that, and he has Thor's hammer with them, and it's just such a cool like thing to see him with the briefcase, the quantum suit, Thor's hammer. He was just like all the Avengers all together, all in one, you know, and that was really, really cool. So, you know, he jumps back into time. They say he's going to be gone for a few minutes, but he'll be gone as long as he wants. So, you know, he doesn't come back. Like, they wait 5 minutes or something. He doesn't show up, and Falcon and Bucky are screaming at Smart Hulk, like, bring him back, whatever. And next thing you know, they see an old man sitting on a bench. They don't know that it's an old man. They see a man sitting on the bench. They walk over there, and it's old man Steve Rogers. And, you know, what was really cool about that is that he was happy, and he's talking to Falcon for a little bit. And, you know, he gives him the shield. He asks him, like, how does it feel? Falcon's like, oh, it doesn't feel like, it feels like it ain't mine. And he's like, it is, you know, and you know, Falcon's like, I'll do my best. So that's really cool. I thought that was an awesome way to pass on the mantle of Captain America, and Falcon definitely deserves it. He's a great character, so that's going to be really cool. Hopefully we see that a lot in the future. I really hope we don't see a scene where Bucky's like, oh, why didn't he give it to me, or why did he choose you? That would be just corny. Hopefully they don't do something like that in their TV show. We'll see, though. But one thing that was super cool, Captain America reaches out to shake Bucky's hand, Falcon's hand, and he has a wedding ring on, and, you know, he explains that he went off and lived the life that he always wanted to. And, you know, that was just incredible. Then next thing you know, it goes to Captain America along with Peggy Carter, and he's just dancing slowly with her, and it's playing like some old 40s music, you know, like something crazy. And yeah, it was beautiful. That's the part where straight up I almost like, that's where I almost let go, and I almost cried all the way, you know, all the way. But again, I was just kind of teary-eyed watching it. Such beautiful stuff, man. It was such a nice way for his character to end. It took him out of the game without really killing him. So just really great stuff for Captain America. It was so awesome. It was the one thing he always wanted. He finally got it. So really great stuff. Overall, it was an incredible movie. I had such a great time, and I really hope that you did too. Obviously, you know, it's not perfect, and if you want to nitpick and be negative, you could definitely poke holes in a lot of the things that are going on in this movie, especially in regards to the time travel stuff. But, you know, that's how it is with time travel movies. Take almost any time travel movie, you could poke holes in its logic, you know. And I think for the most part, this movie didn't really betray the logic that it had. It explained that, like, it's not like you go back in time and you mess something up and it changes the future, because it makes a new future, because that other future already happened. There is no changing it, you know. I kind of like the logic there, and it doesn't always like hold up really, but, you know, for the most part it does. So you know, for me, I didn't even think about any of that crap. I was just like, time travel, yeah, we're good, let's go. And I was just down for the whole thing, and it was just really incredible. And one big concern I had going into it is, like, I wasn't sure. I loved Infinity War so much, I wasn't sure that this movie could top it, and it's hard to say whether it did or not. but I don't know, it affected me differently for sure, and I cannot wait to go watch it again. I plan to go watch it again this weekend, and yeah, it was just an amazing movie, you know, and I'm just really optimistic about what Marvel has going forward. Seeing this movie made me really excited to see what's up with the Eternals, and one thing I question is that can they do it again? You know, can they make us care? I mean, I already loved Captain America, you know, and but I didn't you know, I didn't care that much about Iron Man before the movies. Like, I was aware of him. I had Iron Man action figures. I was into him like as a character, but I didn't love him. No way was I gonna cry if he died in a comic. But you know, in the movie, like it got me. Can they do that again? You know, like. There's a lot of characters. Nebula I didn't care too much about, but you know, in the comics I cared a lot for her story. So can they do that again with a whole nother set of characters? We'll see. And one thing I want to mention that was really cool what they did with Nebula. Instead, in the comics, she gets the gauntlet and she becomes the problem. You know, Thanos has to help the Avengers stop her. Here, they found a way to make her the problem again, but without ruining all the character development that she had, you know, throughout the movies. So that was really cool. I forgot to mention that earlier. But anyways, an incredible movie. I loved it. I really hope that you did. Be sure to leave some comments letting me know what you thought about the movie. Let me know if you like this kind of review video movie discussion thing. I had a lot of fun doing it. So I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Peace.